So we are live right now. Yay! Hi, Chris. How are you?
I'm really well, thank you.
That's awesome. It's terrific to have you here. Thank you so much for stepping up and saying that you would come on and have a chat with me.
Oh, my pleasure.
Yeah, these interviews have been so much fun, and we've had such a broad spectrum of people, which is amazing, obviously, for audiences. But I know that we're going to talk about today goals and how to achieve them. But before, and what a great time of the year to be talking about that, winding down from one year to the next. But before we go into that, can you tell us a little bit about who Chris is and how he's come to be where he is right now?
Oh, geez. Okay. Traditionally, IT. I've been in IT since the beginning of time, it feels like. A few years ago, I spent a period where I worked 100-hour weeks for nearly a year. Yes, I don't recommend anybody try that. It's not fun at all. So I at that point decided when that was a project, that project was done, I decided I was done with corporate IT. So then I branched into IT project management. And so I've done some really interesting projects. I did the project management for IT for the G20 when it was in Brisbane, which was very cool. One of those projects where you cannot get anything wrong.
Yeah.
I've done some other work for the federal government, and I even got, because I have an interest in property development as well. And while I was doing the G20 thing, I'd invested in a property developer, and I was doing some work for them on the side that wasn't busy enough. And at the end of that project, they invited me to come and work on their project, and we built 120 apartments on the riverfront in West End in Brisbane. So I got into the property development space from the inside, which was fabulous. So project manager is one of the things I do. The other thing I did when I decided to bail out of corporate is I did one of those kind of life analysis things, and I looked at all of the things that worked and didn't work, and I started documenting them. And a friend of mine had just published a book and said, you should write a book on this. This is really good stuff. And I figured, nobody's going to read this. So I thought, okay, this is about the goals that I've set and the ones that worked and the ones that failed. Why did they work and why did they fail? And I started to research the neuroscience behind the way the brain works for goal setting. And that was just this whole wonderful world of exposure. So I wrote the book and I wove all of the neuroscience through it. And that's the approach that I take with teaching goal setting as well.
Right. Oh, okay. And where you are now. So where are you at now?
Yeah.
So that's where you are now, teaching people how to set and achieve effective goals. So, I mean, coming from a project management background, of course, you'll be able to, a lot of the planning and a lot of breaking it down into bite-sized pieces and who needs to do what would actually have served you really well for doing goals. And, you know, people talk a lot about goals versus a focus and whatever. But if we want to achieve something, we have to know what it is we want, and then we have to know the steps to take to do it. That's kind of the very basis of it, I suppose.
That's right.
So tell us, I love the project management part, because there will be a lot of the analytical and how to do that. What has been the biggest factor so far for you that has led to your success in the book, for example, and in the business as it is now?
I think it is the distinguishing goal setting taught this way, as opposed to what I call a lot of the myth that's on the internet. So you Google goal setting, you'll get millions of responses, and a lot of them, quite literally, they won't serve you very well. Let me give you a simple example. You'll very, very commonly get the advice, once you set a goal, you should go and tell the world. The neuroscience says, don't do that. A goal in its infancy is quite fragile. And the way the neuroscience works, it says that your brain likes rewards. So it's, we evolved that way. When we were dragging our knuckles on the ground and we were running around looking for food and killing things, and You'd find a cache of berries, and that would be a high value, high energy food. Your brain would trigger a reward mechanism inside saying, we want more of the same.
Yeah.
When you expose a goal and you get praise for that, that is effectively a reward. So your subconscious can go, oh, we've been praised, we're done, don't have to do anything now, problem solved. So it actually can demotivate. The other side of it too is that you'll have potentially a whole lot of people who are operating from their kind of fear centers giving you advice. They don't see themselves being able to achieve it, so they don't see you being able to achieve it. So you get that kind of advice.
Yeah.
So that's one of the myths. What you should do
Yeah.
is get some runs on the board and work with a mentor, and then absolutely let everybody know, because there will be people that can join your success team that will help you along the way.
Yeah. So and I love that, because I love it's programming, really, isn't it? It's like when we're a child, it's like at first what we're born with two fears: the fear of loud noises and the fear of falling. And then as we grow, you do a little giggle and somebody goes, yeah, they get praise for that. So they do it more, they do it more, they do it more. So we actually get programmed into a way of being.
That's right.
And quite often we don't know any other way. So I love that you've done that. That's awesome. And the importance of working with a mentor. Oh my God. It's been the one thing that has saved me in my business a million times, is actually working with somebody that has something I want, or has gone through a path that I haven't gone through yet.
I mean, the most successful people in the world have mentors: presidents, prime ministers, actors, business people.
Yeah.
The heads of Google, Facebook, all of those kinds of guys, they all have mentors.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing I heard just recently. Of course, it was a post on Facebook or something, but somebody was asking, A, the difference between a mentor and a coach, and B, should you have to pay for a mentor? Aren't they supposed to be free? And I pay for my mentor services. To me, the difference is, and just let me know if you agree with this, a coach can coach you and teach you and see some stuff that you don't, but a mentor has done the stuff. They can lead you and guide you in the right direction. A coach doesn't have to have done what it is you want to achieve, but a mentor quite often has done it, so they can show you the pathway and make it shorter. That's kind of in very short terms the difference.
The mentor can often you can learn from mistakes, and they don't all have to be your own. You can learn from other people's mistakes. The mentor can also open doors for you. And there are kind of two kinds of mentors in my book. There's one that I call the sage. They have all the wisdom and the information. And then the other one is the role model. They have the traits and characteristics that you could emulate to become successful.
Right. And imagine
if you can find a mentor with both of them.
With both, perfect. Yeah.
And if they can coach you as well, then you've got it sewn up. But most likely that is something that you'll have to pay for, because it's
100%.
It's a commitment of time, and it's a utilization of a skill set and expertise that needs to be rewarded. So,
I absolutely. It's an exchange of value, isn't it? And I don't expect it to be for free. But, when you're in business, you realize, hang on, if you put $100 in there, but you're going to get $1,000 out of it, well, of course you'd pay it. It's a no-brainer. But people quite often don't see that, because they don't trust their own ability, because they've been programmed in a certain way.
It's a bit catch-22. They need the mentor to get them to the point where they understand they need the mentor. Yeah.
Yes, exactly right. So tell us about goals and how to achieve them. If you were to give us, and I know that you could talk much longer about it, but if you could give us 3 top tips in your experience, or 3 to 5 top tips of how to set really effective goals and actually achieve them, and not just be these New Year's resolutions and then you don't do anything about it.
Okay.
We do.
Yeah, wow, okay, 3 out of, a lot.
I know, well, that's what, but I mean, if it was somebody that's coming into the call, for example, or even like myself, I quite often resist going goals. I usually have a focus, but some people will say, I don't bother doing goals anymore, because every time I do, I fail. So if they're really starting at the beginning, what's the way to set them and to really achieve them? What's 3 to 5 top tips that they must have? or must?
Okay, so the first thing is to remember that the way to achieve goals is essentially a form of mental programming. And that's what you're doing. You are programming various parts of the brain, in particular one called the reticular activating system. And that's
I talk about it a lot. I talk about it a lot.
The RAS is the one that highlights, for example, if you decide you're going to buy a particular car, okay, right now, I'm going to buy this type of car. And then you go out in the street and everybody's driving those cars. Well, they were yesterday, you just hadn't noticed, but now your reticular activating system is focused. So the idea is to program that. The other thing you can do is you can program away fears, what I call the dark alley effect. If you had to walk home from work every day and there was a dark alley that you didn't want to go down, and you jumped on Google Maps and figured, I could save half an hour if I walked down that alley. When you walk past it, you think, one day I'm going to walk down the alley. One day I'm going to walk down the alley. And it becomes a familiar thing, and you take away the fear and then you walk down the alley. Why? Because you've done it 20 times in your head. So that's what the programming side of goal setting is. And one of the best tools for programming yourself is to understand the reason why you want something. And that reason has to have an emotional content. Why? Because the part of the brain that you use for decision making is also the seat of emotions. And they've proven this with people that have had brain injuries who no longer experience emotion, but they also cannot make a decision. So those things are intrinsically tied together. There are some tricks that you could, another one that people say is you need to have discipline. Well, yes and no. Discipline's great if you've got it, but we mostly suck at discipline. So there are a bunch of tricks that you can do. And there's one really, really cool one called an implementation intention. And it's come out of a research by a guy called Gollwitzer from New York University. And it's a really simple, way to approach a goal from the aspect of a micro goal. So you have a simple formula. If or when some trigger, then I will do some action. So you might say, when I get home from work, I will spend 10 minutes on the computer working on my goal. Now, there's a couple of important things here. You spend the time regardless. So you spend the 10 minutes. The other important thing is you've only committed 10 minutes. If you said, I'm going to spend 3 hours, your brain will make all sorts of excuses for not doing it, and you won't start. The best way to get around procrastination is to start. So if you do the 10 minutes and nothing else, you've done 10 minutes. But what this does, what you should do is write these on Post-it notes, these things, stick them up around the house, and it actually programs the subconscious again to the point where it becomes a habit. And I'll give you an example. When I was only working 80-hour weeks, I decided I wanted to run a marathon. So the only time I had to train was 4 a.m, and I set myself an implementation intention. When it's 4 a.m, get dressed, go outside, put my shoes on. That was it. Not run 15 kilometers. That was it. Put my shoes on. So I made myself that tiny little commitment. So I'd get up at 4 a.m, go outside, put my shoes on. I never went back to bed. I thought, I'm out here, I'm going to run. Even though I live on the Gold Coast in Australia, in winter where I live, it can get to 3-4 degrees Celsius, which is quite cool. I still went for a run because of the power of that implementation intention.
Right. So that intention of just the first micro part, because once you're up, you kind of know the rest.
That's right.
There anyway. I'm laughing because I get up, I go out for a walk most mornings. And sometimes there is I'll just set the alarm. But if I had that, I will get up at 5 a.m. and get up and get dressed and put my shoes on.
Yep.
If that's it, instead of get up, get dressed, put my shoes on, go for a walk up the hill. I went for a walk up the hill yesterday. I was waiting for the Rocky bloody theme tune to play at the end of it. I'm like, damn, why isn't somebody here?
I don't run marathons now. I damaged my knee, but I have a 70-meter, 15-degree slope driveway. At 4:30 every morning, I go up and down that 10 times and do 150 push-ups.
Right.
And that's,
this is a hill, and then sometimes I do the second hill. So I did the second hill, and I had my phone, and I actually put Rocky on the Spotify.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because I was going, I want to anchor this great feeling because I was on top of the world.
What this is doing is developing one of the most powerful tools you have, and that's habit. Develop a habit, and a habit is a cycle. It's a trigger, an action, and a reward, and it works for good habits as well as bad habits.
Yeah, the bad habits are the unconscious ones that you do.
That's right.
Yeah.
So you want to control the trigger and the action. So the trigger is, it's, when I get home from work. The action is what I'm going to do when I get home from work. The reward then is progress. Your brain likes progress. It's the fact that you've done this, you've achieved that to the day, tick it off, and then there are obviously the rewards for meeting the milestones of the goal, and then the final goal itself as a reward. Yeah. And all of those celebrations help for your subconscious to say, "Do it again."
Yeah. So just on that point, and this is really interesting because I have done some study myself about habits and how they work. But one of the biggest things, and you may be able to shed some light on it, is how to actually recognize an unresourceful habit, the trigger, how to recognize it. Because quite often, for example, I love food. I'm just going to put it out there, I love food. There are sometimes I eat more food than I should. But quite often it was yum, 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 blah, 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 feel good. And later I go, what the hell did I do that for? But I've done it without even thinking. And I've done some work on that, but I'd love your insight into it. So people who have unconscious, unresourceful habits, how do they identify and recognize the trigger? Because it's so unconscious, they've done it before they realize, they go, what just happened?
Yep. One of the ways, and very effective ways, and there's been quite a bit of research on this, is to form the habit of writing a journal. So say it's a food thing, whenever you're going to consume food, grab the journal, you write the time and what it is you're going to eat, and you document that. That has a number of things. It gives you the data then to look at and say, well, it seems to be that it's about 3 o'clock in the afternoon when I get the munchies, and this is the trigger. So I have to, okay, that's the trigger now. I understand that. What I have to now do is control the action. So at 3 o'clock, what I'll do is I'll go for a walk. So I'm not near the food, whatever the action is going to be.
Unless it's 40 degrees in Perth, but
Unless it's 40 degrees. The other thing it does, though, that after a while you look at it and you think, oh, is that really what I'm eating? Okay, so I have another problem that I can now address. And the research has shown that having that kind of journal and having an accountability partner or a community is even better. Like they did some experimentation where they had people share their journals on social media with others in the community. So that means everybody else is getting to see what you're eating. So what do? I'm going to change my habits now. I'm going to eat better so that when I show up to my accountability group, it looks better. And you do that for long enough, it becomes a habit.
Well, and I guess it depends on somebody's self-efficacy in terms of doing something like that, whether it's eating, whether it's whatever. There can be an element of shame and guilt put into it as well then, which isn't a resourceful thing. And I found, like I have one client just for example, and I journal just about every day. I don't pick it up every time something, but I journal every morning. And I wanted to get this person to do some journaling because I knew it would actually help for those reasons. There is just no way. She would just not do it. It's not my thing. I'm not doing it. And it was quite, but to actually think of, hang on, I've got an unresourceful habit, and to pick up a journal, it's the before you realize that what the trigger is. That's what I'm getting at. And that's what I have found. I've had to do a lot of work on. It's like, I get that, but I don't know what triggered it. I get the result. It's like finding what triggers it to put a block or something in the way. And how do you do that on the deeper unconscious ones? Do you have and this is just, we didn't know we were going to talk about this, but I just think it's fascinating.
Well, people. Even if you journaled after the event, that's still okay, because you're now collecting the information and you're making every time you do this and you journal it, there's a realization and an awareness that I've just done it. And so that's a kind of, a step back analysis. The other thing that you could do too is to set a goal around. So say you say, I'm attending a wedding in September and I want that dress and it's this size.
Yeah.
So whenever the temptation arises, you say, will this get me into that dress?
Yeah.
And then you make a decision, and you can make the decision either way, but every time, will it get me into that dress? Yes.
It's so true, because I've done some work on signature thinking loops, and they are like a habit. It's like we go dit, and we have the good, bad, right, wrong, I can't do it, blah, blah, blah. And how to actually create new signature thinking loops so that you can make a difference. And it's kind of like that. It's like, instead of good, bad, right, wrong, it's like, well, is this effective or ineffective to the goal or to the outcome that I want? Ineffective, don't do it. I was giggling at myself the last couple of days because I've just redone the whole process. And I literally felt myself going, is that effective or ineffective to this? Ineffective, don't do it. It was literally that simple. Instead of saying, oh my God, I can't get this done, or blah, blah, blah. And I think the illusion sometimes is with people in business, they see other people that are ahead of them and they think they're so great and they have this, that, and the other, and they have it all together. But it's not. I think we just get quicker at recognizing and shifting those things and being open to change.
Yes.
To grow.
There is you need to want to change.
Absolutely.
So if you can identify some kind of goal that you can get behind, that kind of reaches deep, it has an emotional content, then that helps. That helps with those.
Yeah. And what are some of the deepest emotional things? So, for example, I'm in business. I love doing what I'm doing. I love connecting with people, growing my business. But sometimes people say to me, what's your bigger why? And I'm going, I just love doing it. I don't necessarily have something that I do. I have something that pulls me, but I couldn't tell you what that is. I just know I don't want to die with my song still in me. So I don't have necessarily a goal per se. Oh, big time. But so it's quite an interesting concept, but that still drives me, although it's not a specific goal.
Yeah, these are not specific. They're more, and that's fine too. They're more intentions. And I think you said it. I don't want to die with this still in me. And if you start a project with that mindset, this has to be done. I need to create this for myself. That's an intention, and that then drives the goal. A goal can be, a start. It's like a project in a sense. A start, a middle, and an end, and it's done. The intention continues for always. It continues for the next goal and the next goal and the next goal. So identifying those underlying intentions, that can be very valuable.
Cool. And I know you've given us some amazing tips there. I'm even writing notes here myself. But what is, for somebody who's never set a goal or never achieved the goal, what's the very first thing that they need to do? And I mean, I get that, like you said, you need to mental reprogramming, but people don't know how to do that. So what's the very first thing?
The first thing is to identify the goal. And say, well, but what? And I say, well, have a look at all of the, have a look at the things, have a look at relationships, have a look at travel, income, career, toys, like a new car or whatever, those kinds of things. Have a look at the things that you enjoyed as a child, the things that, that really motivated you. Even look at the material that you read and watch on television. Is there something in there? Why is it that that's interesting? And is there something in there that could be a goal?
Something
so
that you want.
It's to identify that and then build. It's commonly called a visualization, but it needs to be more than that. You build in NLP terms, it's called an end state. And it's, what is this going to look like when I've completed it at the end?
Like a future pace.
But you build it and you try and use all of the senses. So, and sight, sound, etc., but also things like temperature, and proprioception, which is where your body is in space. I'll give you an example. Which of these creates a more vivid picture? A gathering of people inside a house on a snowy Christmas day is number one, or the snow is falling outside, I'm sitting on a soft rug in front of a fireplace, the warm fire crackles quietly, I can taste that delightful red wine I am drinking, I can smell the food as it wafts through from the kitchen, and I'm talking to good friends I haven't seen in ages.
Yeah, 100% the second one. Yeah.
This is all of the senses brings in
Yeah.
an element of emotion.
Well, yeah, 1,000,000%. So what do you feel then with all of that about vision boards, for example?
Vision boards are like triggers for those stories. They're great.
Yeah.
If you can, it's not just, okay, I want to go to Bali, I want to go to Venice, put a picture of Venice on there. Put a picture of Venice on there and have a story around that picture of Venice.
Yeah.
So
And
use the
even
vision
some
board.
extra, stuff that you want. The gondola beside it, have Venice, have a gondola beside it with a lovely couple because you and your partner want to enjoy
That's
it.
it.
And all of that.
And so, because that's a static thing. But if you can build that visualization, I call them think-ualizations, because there isn't a term for using all of that stuff that you have to think about.
Yeah.
If you can look at that Venice picture, gondola, and then all that comes to mind. Now that vision board's really working for you.
They're triggers and anchors. I heard a great thing the other day. I was listening to something and it was authority anchor. I had never heard that term before. No, and I went, what's that? And it's friggin' amazing. So you would know, doing NLP and things like that, that we do anchor certain things. We make certain things mean. So, somebody has a nice bowl of chocolate versus somebody has a nice bowl of salad. You have anchored good, bad, or indifferent feelings to that. So an authority anchor is, say if you're a speaker, for example, that you say something like, hey, I've noticed that professional speakers like myself and Tony Robbins, blah, blah, blah. So you've anchored yourself you haven't said, I'm a Tony Robbins speaker, but it's kind of, you've anchored yourself with that authority. Yeah. And it was the same as if you're a podcast maker maybe, or doing video interviews like this and say, oh, I've noticed that people that do interviews like myself and Oprah, they always ask these kind of powerful questions. It's like, you've just anchored yourself with Oprah. It's like, happy days.
I have to think about how I can use that. That's really
they're very powerful. I mean,
I'm going to write that down.
Amazing. Yeah, an authority anchor. And it's so true. So you're not being completely up yourself and kind of saying, hey, I'm as good as Oprah or I'm as good as Tony Robbins. But you're saying, hey, speakers like myself, Tony Robbins, or interviewers like myself and Oprah, we tend to ask these kind of challenging questions. It's like, oh, she's Oprah. Oh my God. And people don't even realize. It blew me out of the water. It's so simple. And I thought, man, it's such a powerful tool to use. But that's what you're talking about, is anchoring to those pictures on a vision board, a whole story.
Yes, that's right.
Because I meditate as well as journaling. But one of the things, I don't know if you've heard about voice dialogue. So voice dialogue is a different modality, but its theory is that we have lots of different selves, which comes from, Carl Jung's work and all of that. So we have the pusher self, and we have the worker and the villain and the victim and all that. So it's like a big stage. And when I was kind of meditating on all these different selves, I'm going crazy. There's all these different bloody voices from my head. But, the damaged self, for example, their theory is the damaged self. We spend all these years trying to heal it. The damaged self does not need to be healed. They all have their own KPI, their own job description. The damaged self's job is to be damaged and to just protect you from all the arrows or whatever. Mm-hmm. So I was having a meditation about this, and I'm going, oh my God, how am I going to manage all these, and what selves are disowned versus what selves are primary? What do I need? Mm-hmm. And the analogy I came up with is like all the different selves are like a choir. We need all of the voices in it, but they don't all have to sing at the same time. And sometimes it's a certain one's voice, but they all play a part. And the ego is like the conductor. So the ego will go, hey, procrastination, you come over here and distract her for a while because it's not safe what she's doing. So we want to protect her a little bit. So it was just quite that visualization. That's the point I'm getting to. The visualization of literally this choir of I don't know how many cells. And it was like, oh, they don't all have to shout at the same time. But I don't have to disown, because the disowned self is when we get triggered by other people because there's something in them that we haven't dealt with in that self.
That might be a great approach, though, to developing a different relationship with fear and failure.
Oh, yeah, because you'd have your fear self. Just for example, I'll give you a quick example. We're going into deeper stuff than I thought, but anyway, I used to have a disowned victim. And how I know that now from the study and everything I've done is that every time somebody would show up as a victim, a bit whingy and moany, my internal dialogue would be, oh, for God's sake, just get over it, blah. I would be triggered every time. But what I realized was that I had pushed away my victim from circumstances when I was young. It was like, I'm not a victim. I'm getting through this. What are you talking about? I'm strong, blah, blah. And pushed away what the true role of the victim was, which the victim's job is to carry the story. That's it. That's its job. The job is not to stay in story, which is where we stay sometimes. But I have pushed it away so much that every time a victim mentality living in story was presented to me, it would trigger me. So being able to embrace that and go, hey, I can carry the story, I just don't have to live there. It's so powerful. Yeah. It's Helen and Sidra Stone. I think I've got them right. The best book of all is Embracing the Cells. And you start reading it and I'm going, highlight, oh my God, because they talk about the push yourself and the procrastinate. And here's another little part that when I started going deeper into business, I realized my entrepreneur and my opportunity self were not developed at all. So I had to find what cells to develop. And I literally have it written down with what my opportunity self, what her name is. I have a job description, how she presents herself, and the phrases she would say. Because you can literally go to that and go, well, I have a worker self as well. Wonder work it is my worker self. But one of her phrases is just do it, just start. And she has more of a ponytail, tracky dacks, she's casual at home because she's just getting stuff done.
I absolutely can relate to that. I did a presentation for my network group pre-COVID called Multiple Streams of Identity. It sounds like a very similar thing. And what triggered that was a comment from somebody in a facilitator in a business workshop that I was in. We got to talking about goal setting. And he said, I have an uncle and a father who won't retire. And their fear is that once they do, they will lose their identity because their identity is so wrapped up in that corporate mantle. So what they need is to have goals and, in fact, develop new identities outside of that one. I think absolutely.
And that's because, like in business, we come from being an employee, although, high-end management, whatever, but we're still an employee. And then we become this business owner because this has got to be so much better. But we've actually just A, created ourselves a job, or B, what we've done is we're a business owner, but the business owner is freaking no good at getting money because we've never had to do it before.
That's right.
We just went in and got a wage. So it's
so they're
developing
a different self. Yes.
Oh, it's so powerful when you start learning. Anyway, this is like you and I are just talking. I've nearly forgotten we're doing a Facebook Live. It's phenomenal. But you see how it opens up and the conversations open up about it, because setting, plodding along in your life, doing nothing is fine if you're happy doing that. But if you're not happy and something's not working, well, then maybe we need to look at, what is it you actually want and what do you want to change to do that? And can I say, and I'm not sure if you agree with me with this, Chris, nothing is off the table. If you want to run a marathon and you're sitting on the couch now, it doesn't mean you can't run a marathon, but is there some action and work to be done in the middle?
That's right.
You betcha. Same with business, same with anything you do. Could I become a brain surgeon if I went back to work and to school and applied myself? Yeah, possibly.
Yes.
I don't want to.
Yes, you'd have to have a strong motivation for that.
Yeah, but nothing is off the table.
Yes.
Well, with the exception of, I'm about 5'8". If I want to be 6'2", is that possible? Yeah, I'd probably have to have surgery and add
No, it has to fit within the laws of physics.
Yeah.
In there, it's not off
Yeah.
the table. Yeah.
Well, but that's it. But so I love those tips that you've given, and the RAS. I love talking about the reticular activation system. I remember when I was pregnant many years ago, and every single person seemed to be pregnant. It was like, because this awareness there was like, whoa.
Yeah.
So it
can work the other way too. Like what my wife calls a child look. I'll go look in the cupboard and say, it's not there. She says, it's right in front of you. It's, there it is. It's red. I thought it was blue. I'd programmed blue.
Yes.
It can work the other way too.
Yeah, 100%. It's like my kids just go, there's nothing to eat. It's like, oh, is that where the $200 in the shopping I've spent this week went? Because they just had to make it, but they couldn't see it. Yeah, great points. So look, back to goals and how to achieve them. So just to summarize, it's just actually know what your goal is, and then speak to somebody if you can't do it, and work out the steps to start making that happen. That's probably some of the easiest.
In the first instance, it's just like a project. What's the outcome?
Yeah.
What are the steps to get there?
Yeah, but you're experienced in projects. Remember, most people aren't.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
That's why I said when your project management, because I've done little projects in hospitality and I was the same. Go to the end and start back, and people go, what? I want to know what the first step is.
Yeah.
But it's go to what it is and reverse engineer it. What needs to happen first?
Yeah.
So if you want to run a marathon and you want to do it in 2 years or whatever, so many miles, what needs to happen first? Get yourself some good bloody shoes.
Yeah. At least go for a walk, something.
Yeah, start moving.
If you're going to run a marathon, I really suggest you do get a coach so that you don't.
Oh yeah, I was going to say that go to somebody then who knows what you need to do, but you would need to have shoes before you go to them. And if you can't afford to have shoes, go get a job to get the money to buy the shoes to do it. It sounds so simple, but sometimes that is, and people get caught up. We had somebody in our membership just recently who has always done amazing workshops face to face, and she said, I don't know how to bring this onto an online one. And hers was much more of a face-to-face. It was actually vision boarding. And then we got on the membership and we talked about it. And we said, what about what? And she just came off the call going, I don't know why I didn't think of that. It's like, because sometimes we just don't think of it. We can't see.
I've had a similar experience in workshops that I've run where people will say, oh, I've got this. And you say, well, it's your goal. Change it. It's your time frame. Change it. I can do that.
No, nobody else knows what you're going to do. Cool. So Chris, tell me a couple more questions for you. What is success to you?
Oh, that's a hard one.
Is it?
Yes. What is success? Gee.
To you?
For me, I think it's about experience. My eldest son a few years ago said, I got enough stuff. I don't want stuff. I want experiences, gifts. Yeah. And that for me that's what success is getting to experience all of these things. Having the wherewithal to do that, whatever that experience is, I don't see it as it's not an end point. It's a continuation. Yeah. So I do all of these different things, and those experiences, I think, that contributes to my success.
Beautiful.
There's the people that I meet, the cross-fertilization, the ideas, the learning. I've got a massive bookcase full of books I haven't read yet. I'm an avid reader, learner. I've got a whole lot of amazing neuroscience research papers still to read. It's experience. It's having the experiences that make my life what I want it to be. I think. Yeah.
Love it. Now, you're giving us some of your success habits, which I'm guessing, of course, are movement and a bit of meditation and, of course, journaling. But what's one of the hardest decisions you've ever had to make in your business? I like asking curveball questions.
You do. I think one of the hardest was to actually stop doing something. It was kind of you run with this goal. It's a baby. It got so far down, but there comes a point where it becomes unproductive. It's consuming resources, money, and it doesn't matter what you do. You probably aren't going to get it across the line, or you're not going to get across the line in the time frame that you need. It's because it's going to be a burden, and that is one of those decisions that you have to make. Is okay, I have to stop. I have to cut my losses and not throw sort of good money and good time after bad.
Yeah.
And okay, yeah, quit,
Make a
write that one
change.
off. What did I learn? Move on. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what I talk about, having a new relationship with failure. Failure is it's one of the things. It's part of the whole
Yeah.
process.
And it's how I think people get so stuck, isn't it? Because everything starts with a thought form. Then we emote it into, life. We start feeling what it's going to be like to have it. And then we take action. And that's where people get wrong. They get a result and they name a failure and they stop there. Instead of getting a result and going, well, was that effective or ineffective to what I want? Yeah. Ineffective? Do I need to learn more? Do I need to talk to somebody else? Blah, blah. And then take some more action and keep doing the cycle.
Yeah.
I love that, because so many people just call it, oh, I tried that before, I'll never try that again. It's like, no, you tried that before. What did you learn and how can you apply it to the next
We used to teach our kids when they were little, they couldn't say they didn't like something until they tried it 3 times.
Okay.
After that, if you truly didn't like it, we won't give it to you ever again, but you have to try.
Okay. I wish I'd remembered that with business case. But anyway, tell me this, Chris, how did it feel when you got to the point of where you are in business today?
There's a level of confidence, I think. I have been working on myself for many, many years. I was chronically shy when I was younger. I made a decision at one point that I had to change this, so I started reading, and that's where the whole love of this sort of stuff came from. And I used to do little tricks. I would start talking to somebody at a traffic light as we crossed the road, and then if I felt uncomfortable with the conversation, I'd go a different way to they did. If I felt comfortable, I'd go the same way. So just anything to get out. So all of this experience has given me a level of confidence that even walking out of a role, a well-paid role after working 100-hour weeks with nothing to go to, thinking, it doesn't matter. I will build something.
That's quite fascinating, because I did that, and I remember my last job. They go, where are you going? What job have you got? And I went, I haven't. Well, what are you going to do? And I'm going, I'm not sure yet. And they go, but why are you leaving? And my only word was, it's time.
Yes.
That was literally it.
Yes.
And I felt it to my core.
Yes.
And I think it's, when you say the confidence, I think it's that self-efficacy of, I know I've got this, no matter what.
Yep.
And we all look for certainty in our lives, but quite often it's external. When you have that certainty from within, I used to use an Irish term, I used to say, I know I can shovel shit if I need to. Yes. And I'm not afraid to.
Yes.
So I know I've got this, no matter what happens. And a great question that recently came up as well, I heard it. So what am I without X? So what am I without this business? What am I without my children? What am I without, or who am I without it, rather? It's a really powerful question, because who am I if I didn't have kids, grandchildren, a business? And you start really looking, well, who am I without that?
That comes back down to your core identities. Yes.
Yeah, it's very powerful. So I have 2 last questions for you. So what is the most powerful question that somebody has ever asked you?
Oh, geez. I don't know if I could answer. I've been asked so many questions.
Yeah, you can't use that
one. That's not an option, right? Okay. You'll have to ask me the second question, because I'm going to have to think about that one.
Right. Well, the second question was, if you could start all over again, what would you do differently?
Oh, wow. I've actually thought about that. I
just throw them out there.
Yes, yes, yes. If I could go back to being 10 years old, I lived in a mining town. I grew up with kids of all nationalities. So this whole racism thing, I just don't get it, because I grew up with all sorts of cultures and food.
Yeah.
If I could go back to then, I would do two things. I would learn more languages, absolutely, because it's so much easier at that age. I'm trying now, and
Yeah.
it's so much more difficult. And the other thing that I would do is I would learn about property as soon as I possibly could. Yeah,
Right.
that would be
Cool.
the two
Awesome.
things.
Now back to the other question.
And what was the question?
Powerful question someone has ever asked you.
I don't know. What's coming to mind is it's probably a why question.
Yeah.
Is it, okay, why? Why
Why are you doing
that?
that?
Why are you
Yeah.
doing that? And yeah, I'd say it would be something like that.
And it was powerful because you felt you had to justify why, or it brought to your focus exactly why?
The latter. It's kind of, well, that is a great question. Now that I'm aware of it, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
What is the benefit? Is this, should I be doing this? Is this the right approach? So start then to, it's an awareness and then an analysis. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me, how could people contact you, Chris? What's the best way they could contact you if anyone wants to get in touch?
Email is the best. A really simple email address, chris@youcansetgoals.com.
Okay, cool. So you can set goals, no capitals, all lowercase.
Not all lowercase. chris@youcansetgoals.com. Yep.
Awesome.
That's
cool. So not Facebook, LinkedIn, or anywhere like that?
I'm on all of those. Yes, I'm on LinkedIn as Chris Christoff. I'm on Facebook as Chris Christoff Senior, as Chris Christoff is my son. And he got on LinkedIn before on Facebook before I did. So either of those are great as well. Messenger
Awesome.
or
so maybe when we're finished, you can pop the link to those just in the chat box. I wouldn't put your email in there for obvious reasons, but just pop the link to the LinkedIn or your Facebook page or Facebook profile. That'd be great, and people can get in contact with you there. So I know we met all the way. You're in Melbourne, aren't you? Or
no, I'm on the Gold Coast.
You're in the Gold Coast. That's right, where my daughter is. I should have recognized that. You're in the Gold Coast, yet we met through American people.
That's right.
Yeah,
we had to go all the way around the world.
I know. I'm sitting in this American summit, speaking, going, why the hell do I not know these Australian people already? What the hell's going on? Yeah, it was so funny. So
and we had to get up at 4 a.m. to do it.
Yeah, you were lucky. I said yes to one without checking the time, and one of them was 2 a.m.
2 a.m. Yeah.
2 a.m. Yeah. Yeah. And that means, this doesn't just happen. You have to get up a bit earlier and do it. But anyway.
That's right. Yeah.
Chris, it's been a pleasure having you. Thank you so much. I can't believe we've talked for nearly an hour for a 30-minute chat we were going to have. But it's been awesome. So thank you so much.
My pleasure.
For being on. This will be obviously on Facebook, and then I'll send you a copy of it too.
Awesome. And I've just put my LinkedIn
yeah, I'll put that onto the Facebook page underneath. Yeah. Cool. Awesome. It's been a pleasure, and let's chat again soon.
Thanks.
Okay. Bye.
See ya.